Hello. It's week number 2. And day 7, I believe. Had a nice long weekend for Memorial Day weekend up in northern Michigan. It was real nice. And obviously had a great test with Jason, who was, just great for helping me out and running through a test and talking about a bit more than just a test process too, a little bit. And for the project, I think the test went really well. I mean, we got some positive inclinations that were, I wouldn't say it's validated, but we got positive validation comments about the problem we're trying to solve. That, this is not, I'm not the only person who thinks maybe a structured format for this might be cool and useful. Also ran into a fair number of little usability issues, or not even usability issues, but just places for improvement. The onboarding process, I'm thinking about definitely comes to mind. Understanding what this thing actually does, the function of benefit, like we had the benefit copy in there pretty well, but I want to emphasize de-stressing the benefit copy rather than some other stuff, and just figuring out what the thing does versus the benefit copy, just the value. I don't think was as clearly evident, or rather the value was clear, but the function of what this thing does wasn't as immediately clear. The video might help, but I don't know. Lots of good stuff to think about there. I mean, it was very dense, and I tried to keep it pretty short for our video, but plenty of stuff to change. It's only one test. So I think you, after doing a lot of tests like this, you find that after a few tests, you start to see commonalities and differences, right? And so I'm not sure which of the things that he said are things that he's saying because he's Jason, and maybe we have similarities because of our work history or our role, and which of the things are going to keep popping up over and over again. Those are the really interesting things. I keep talking to people, and they keep saying this, but we're only at a sample size of 1, so we don't have that yet. But yeah, I mean, it was a really good feeling to sort of go through and have him say, no, this might be really useful for me. And I didn't, even though he's a friendly, I didn't super prime him for what it was going to be. So I think that's a really positive sign. It gets me energized to keep going. So what's next? I mean, I have this recording. I might sort of go through. If I was a designer in a project on a company right now, what I might do is take that recording, do really good notes on it, share it with the team, identify, as Jason was saying that he does in these very recordings sometimes, the things we might want to tweak, issues, maybe in Google Doc, or maybe I would try it in Asana since Jason mentioned that was a cool idea, or some other task tracker or just paper. Get some series of changes that I can then go through and then update the design. I do another iteration of the design. Hey everybody, did 1, 2, n number of tests. Here are some updated designs with some new changes based off those tests. Here's what we found. Here's what we want to tweak. I probably wouldn't have even done just one test. If I was going to go through the trouble of scheduling the test, which I didn't really have to do here, I would probably have multiple tests, at least 3 or 4 going in this iteration so that I could get a broader sample. I'm not going to do any of that here, I don't think. I mean, I have the recording. I always record those tests. I can go back and take a look at it. But because I'm by myself, I'm not just a designer, I'm also the only engineer and the CEO. Everybody calls themselves CEOs when they start companies. They're not really a CEO. There's other things I have to think about. And I want to do another good pass at design. I think about my work as sort of like sprints or just like surges of work. And when I have energy to do that, I really take advantage of it and do that work. But I don't want to extend it for too long. Like if I keep working on this design forever and ever, I could work on it forever, and maybe engineers will be working on it in parallel, but I don't have anybody to do that. And so I think I would be a little concerned when I do these projects. If I just were to do that forever, I might end up with a theoretically great design that can't ever be really tested because it's never been built at all. And I would sort of get into second guessing myself and making a change and then making the change back without having a real test for it or releasing it to a market. And if you design for too long, like if you design for weeks and then months on a single little feature, that is you can get into a kind of a dark place creatively because you've just been staring at this thing for too damn long, and no amount of long Memorial Day weekends would give you your energy back for it. And we've done this before, and it doesn't result in good work, and it slows you down. So I like to sort of shift gears and leave a little on the table, so to speak, a little in the tank. Lots of analogies there. And try to do something else. I have the video. I've seen that conversation. I have it in my mind. Later I'll go back and work on it. But today I just want to start by doing something else and getting us set up a little bit with a different aspect of this thing altogether in week 2. And that is that I want to put together some code. I want to build some websites. I like making websites. So today the plan is to just get the rough basics up and running for getting something on. The goal today is to deploy literally anything. My strategy here is to just ship it first, and I can talk a little bit about why I do that as I go. As I mentioned earlier, I've done a couple things to start this project off. I had the scribbles that I shared. I had some voice memos that I might share more detail later, just as some ideas talking out loud. And I also had a domain name. So I'm going to create a folder on my computer that has my project in it. I'm going to hook that up to GitHub. So I have my project saved and up on the internet somewhere. And I'm going to probably try to create React app, maybe, which is a thing that will manage my front end, manage my app. I'll explain much more about React later if you're not familiar. And then I'm going to maybe try to get something deployed, meaning have it up on an actual site, on a server somewhere. I'm going to use Firebase for that. I'm going to be using Firebase for a lot of things. I actually made a boilerplate, Get Firefly. And so this is a little website I made that is describing some little documentation for a code base called Firefly, which is here. And this is the code, the boilerplate I use when I'm starting a new project. So if I weren't doing a recording of this video, what I'd probably just do is copy this exactly into a new folder and go from there with Firefly. I don't think I'm going to do that for 2 reasons. One is that, it's been a little while since I updated this, and I just want to make sure that everything's up to date and maybe do some reinstalls instead of working off some old versions. I also want to be building this live, and I don't want this to be a project where it says, and then he fast forwards and then has an entire app working in a day, and you're thinking, well, that wasn't really building the startup live. And it wouldn't be, because all the work that went into this isn't on camera. I mean, everybody comes into this with creative work they've done before, but I want to go through and I'll probably just be stealing a lot of pieces from Firefly as I go, but I'll do it in small enough chunks that I can explain what the code is doing, and I'll be myself just going through and making sure that the code is working. So that's the plan for today. Let's get started. First thing I'm going to do, I suppose, is go to my shuffleboard file. So you remember this file, or this folder. This is our sketches that we had in here. These are the voice memos of the things I recorded. Oh, I took a screenshot of that just to remember it. So I'm going to make a thing called screenshots. And this is very similar to all the other projects I have in this general folder structure. Let's see, okay. I'm going to make a new folder in here called something like code or app. Close that. Okay. CD Dropbox projects shuffleboard. So everything that I do is in a folder called projects, and that entire folder is in a synced Dropbox folder. So literally, I could smash my computer over a rock today if I really, for some reason, had to, and that would sync everything would be already safe in the cloud. And I also use other things like GitHub for projects, especially too. So I like that. That's a nice way to do it. Shuffleboard. Okay, I'm going to use create React app to create this folder. I could just make a folder here, but I think don't need to update it. You can make a new create React app here. It's just a basic bare bones thing we're going to use. Right, and it's using this, they recommend using this thing npx, which just does it, I believe. Let's see. I think you can just run npx, just like that. Okay. Npx, so used to typing npm. Create React app shuffleboard. This might take a couple of minutes. I bet it will. If we go here, we can see we already have our shuffleboard app and it's putting some stuff in it. If I go here, nope, not yet. So let's just let that run for a minute. While that's running, I can also make my GitHub project. Call it shuffleboard. No description, private for now, no readme. Okay, so this is going to help us connect this folder of stuff. Hold up. Boarding installation. Expected version of that got 8.9.4. How do I update npm? That might be the issue. You guys have seen the real thing here. The real deal. Is it npm install npm? Is that how it is? Let's type in some random shit into the command line, crossing my fingers. Pretty sure that's how you do it though. Now we're going to retry the other one. So after 2 of 4 fetching packages, it failed. Oh, motherfucker. All right. Time to Google some error messages. This is a yarn issue, and I'm not using yarn. Maybe I should be. Let me just do this. 6.9.0. That sounds old. Or rather, this. 8.9.4. What's the latest? Yeah, not that. Why do I want it on my location? It's probably npm install node, isn't it? is not it. I've seen a simpler version before. Maybe I'm not. Let's try this. I sure hope you know what you are doing. Holy crap. All right, let's try this. Who would have thunk Node may have been the issue? We don't even know. Nice. Should have done that earlier. I think that's better. It is better. Okay. Let's just assume that that's going to work. So what is React script? It's basically just like React is a thing it's a view layer in your code. So that basically is code that helps you organize all the different little things you're going to show on the screen and when they appear and the logic around that. It doesn't handle talking to servers. It doesn't handle a lot of other things. But it's really hard to set up because JavaScript is just like this mess where there's all these different things that can be used with each other, and the language is really like chill and kind of a stoner language where it just doesn't really care about strict things very much, and so it tends to just break all the time, and everybody's just kind of throwing stuff in the ecosystem, which makes it this beautiful world of like rich. It's super popular, so there's a ton of stuff, and it just kind of breaks all the time. And Create React App is a thing that helps you build React apps and gives you all this other stuff along with it, so you don't have to think about stuff much. And if you're working in React, which a lot of people are, and you're not using it, you're probably insane because there's just too much that it just takes care of for you, and you don't have to, deal with this stuff all day. All right, shash. Yep, that makes sense. CD shuffleboard. All right, let's see what we got in here. Yarn. Maybe I should start using Yarn. Maybe today's the day. All right, we got some stuff. Yarn start. Starting development server. Hey, look at that. We got a React app up and running. And my computer's freaking out a little bit. A little dicey. So I'll tell you what. I'm going to pause right here for just a few minutes, make sure my screen recording is still working because I've had some trouble with that, and come back and we'll get this committed to Git. keep going. Okay, I'm back. That didn't take very long. Screen recording is good, so let's go ahead and keep going here. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to open, I think we can do this. Open folder. Let's get this going. Cancel that. One thing I'm going to do, actually, I'm just going to close this down real quick and rename my shuffleboard folder here, because it's in a folder called shuffleboard. I'm just going to rename this app. So it's at the top, and because that's how my other ones, all my other projects are named, and for no better reason than that. So now I'm going to go back into VS Studio here. I use a text editor called VS Code, which is like a mini version of the VS Studio stuff, which is a Microsoft product actually, and I used to use the one made by GitHub, Atom, and I used to use Sublime Text and TextMate and all the other good ones from back in the day. But I find this one's pretty nice because it has an integrated command line, and it also just does pretty well with version control here, of which we haven't done right now. So this is our app, this is what we got. And we can run this again. Yarn start, I believe. We're back at it. So we've got a favicon, some HTML that isn't going to do much for us. This is all going to stay out of our way. Some configuration here, some basic CSS stuff, and some stuff for our homepage, service worker thing. There's a fair amount of stuff here that I don't really need, but I'm not going to delete it yet. First, let's get this Git situation under control. I want to make sure that we're committed everything up. So I'm just going to say git init here. Do I have a git ignore? I do. What's in it? Everything. Well, we'll leave that as it is. Git add this stuff. In fact, I might as well just start doing this over here. Let's get status. Is that staged? Nope. How do I do this? Just going to reopen this. Always hiccups when you first get started. Should be anything here. Oh. Did they make that for me? No way. Okay. Well, I guess we can just start going through and cleaning this up to how I want it to be. This is an SVG that shows this, presumably, I think. So, don't need it. Service worker. This is some stuff that seems real hard to understand, so that I can have the app be offline. But I don't want it to be offline yet because I don't want to have to deal. Gone. Favicon, I know I don't want that one. Maybe I'll just leave it for now. These comments, I already know this stuff. I don't really want them to hang around. I can always look this up in documentation later. Title should be shuffleboard. Yeah, so our changes here are going to be recognized in our Git section here. Manifest, short name. good for now. App CSS. So I don't really want to use any of this CSS, and I don't even want to use just CSS files the way they have them here. So I'm going to delete this. I'm also going to delete this. I don't want the service worker stuff. I don't want this. I don't want the CSS. I don't even want the semicolons at the end. So that's where I'm at there. This test, it's nice to be able to test your app. I'm going to leave it in. I'm not sure I'll be updating tests all the time as I go, but we'll leave it in for now. Index.js, did I get that one? Okay, this one. We don't need that SVG, we don't need that CSS. App, or create from React. Any other semicolons? More sneaky one. Don't need this whole div header situation. Don't need a link. I don't really need a paragraph either. I can just do this. So that's our simplest possible React app. The README, I know I don't want any of this in my README necessarily. Well, maybe I should keep it. So, like, a lot of this I can obviously always look up in documentation. I don't want this. I'm just going to clean this up. Because a lot of this is going to be replaced by things that are specific to my app. So I'm going to say shuffleboard. My URL is getshuffleboard.com. Still can't believe I snagged it. I'm writing this in Markdown, which is just a way of it's sort of like HTML. It's a way of writing text documents with just a little bit of formatting, basically. I'll put that in bold. Those little green lines, I believe, are, I don't know if it's ESLint or something in here that is helping me make sure my Markdown is well formatted. I'm not actually going to run npm build stuff like this, but we'll just leave it like that for now. Leave this file well enough alone. This is just keeping a bunch track of some packages for us. That's all good. I'm not sure what some of this stuff is, but I just want to get rid of it now. No, I'm not going to have these. I might have that. Yard. Hey, look. It says shuffleboard on our app. That's what we want. And we deleted a lot of good stuff that we don't want. So this is really good news. Here we go, shuffleboard, render it, hit ignore package, this. So if we go in here and just update this, Shuffleboard is going to automatically refresh. It's going to check all my code. I am good to go. So I'm just going to add all these changes to my Git and say Git message will be clean up, create React app boilerplate. Committed, good to go. Now I want to take this code and do two things with it. I want to take this app and I want to put it in GitHub, so I have a persistent storage of this with a record of all the things that I've done. I mean, I don't have to do that. It's on my computer, and the computer's hooked up to Dropbox, so theoretically it should be fine. But it gives me peace of mind, and it helps me go through and look up pieces of code from previous sections before a lot easier. So I choose to use GitHub. So first, let's get that going here. We have our thing here, git remote add origin this. I'm going to push an existing repository since we have one. And do that here. Whoop, what'd I do? Close it. Look at this. So now we've got our shuffleboard app in GitHub. Just a couple folders. No description or website stuff provided. All right, so look, got a GitHub up. This is our app with links to our URL. And when we click it, nothing, because we haven't put it up online yet. So now I want to get this thing up on the real internet. This really basic app that does literally nothing. And so to do that, I'm going to host it on Firebase hosting. Firebase it was a startup. It was acquired by Google, and it's sort of a set of tools to help web developers who don't really want to spend all their time like dealing with database details and stuff. It's basically like web development light, if that makes sense. It's easier. It doesn't have all the tools. If your app is successful, it might make it harder to develop at some point, but it's just too good to not use for getting started. So I'm going to go into my Firebase here and create a couple new projects, actually. I'm just going to copy and paste this 3 times. I'm actually going to create an entirely new project for each of my servers that I'm going to run. I'm going to have 3 different servers. One for the live app that's up and working, and it's going to have its own database where all the data in it is real data from real people. I'm going to have a staging server, which is like a version of the live server that nobody else can see or use that I can use to test the app. I'm going to have a development server, which is just what I use day to day as I'm working, and I just throw any random data in there, and it's totally fine. So let's say we've got 3 new projects here. I'm going to call this shuffleboard dev. This one's going to be called shuffleboard stage. This one's going to be called shuffleboard live. I put it in all caps, so if I'm deleting something from the database, I can be extra sure that I'm going to see that I'm on the live app. Yes, yes, I accept. Defaults, sure. All right. Firebase projects away. Now, how do I hook up Firebase to my code base? I don't entirely remember, so I'm going to go to my Firefly documentation and find out. There's a bunch of Firebase stuff in here. What I should probably just do is Firebase init. I think that's how it works. All right, start by adding it to your app. Why don't we just follow the directions? This is new, app nickname. I'll just keep the same thing. I'm going to want Firebase hosting. Not sure what registering is doing, but let's do it. And what have I done? Copy and paste. So I'm actually not going to do this exactly here because what I want to do is define the code in some environment variables the way it works in Firefly. So in Firefly, I have these files here that define all the things about Firebase for your app. Now maybe that's not going to work. Maybe Firebase has changed, but that's what I'm hoping to do. So I'm just going to pretend to not. Let's see. Core Firebase always required. Maybe it's required now. Add SDKs for Firebase. Yeah, I don't want to do this. I'm going to import it into my main JavaScript bundle. I have Firebase tools. Okay, let's do Firebase init in here. See what happens. I want to use not the original database, Firestore. I'm going to use functions. Functions are basically a back-end server that I might need at some point here. Will I need? Maybe not. Let's leave it off for now. Hosting, definitely going to want to host this web page. Storage, probably not. Okay, set a default project. These are all the things I've made. That's fine. File should be used for files. So yeah, I guess we want to use a public directory, public. I'm going to change that later. Yes, I want it to be a single page app. So if you go to shuffleboard, getshuffleboard.com/ foobar, it should still go to the same app. It shouldn't try to get some file off a web server somewhere. File public engagement already exists, overwrite. No. want to have to delete all the Firebase crap too. Okay, so what's changed here? I was expecting to see some colorful changes. We've got a few things here. Firestore rules. So this is just a bunch of stuff that Firebase needs. These are the rules that basically is going to let anybody talk to our database. And we're going to worry about indexes later. Actually, maybe we should just save this as it is. Okay, so I'm not expecting this to really work or do anything, but I'm just going to commit the snapshot right here so I know what Firebase thinks I should be doing, so that when I change it, I can always go back to that old version. I'm going to add everything here and just say Firebase init. I can sync that up to my GitHub server if I want to. Okay. I might be breezing by something I actually need, but we'll worry about that later. One app. One app in project. All apps are included in project level metrics below. So I can have multiple apps in the same project, which means I only need to have one thing called shuffleboard, maybe. What if I go to my database? Can I have multiple databases? I need that. Doesn't really matter because I'm about to send up security rules for my here. This is probably very confusing to watch because I'm pretty familiar with Firebase. Clearly not the latest stuff, but I will, explain some of this later as we go. It's possible that I can just have this in one app now, but I don't see how the database would work, and just too unsure about that. Let's see. Let's just look it up. Firebase blog post multiple apps project. I'm sure they wrote a blog post about it if there's some new feature. All right. Multiple Fire projects in an Android app. That's not what we want. We want multiple apps in one project, I think. Plus it's not, that's in Android, that's not what we're looking for. Multiple sites, plus booping up multiple sites in one project. So this is a way to have multiple hosting sites. But that's not what we want. We want, our databases are the things that really need to be separate. It's really different environments, not just two different web pages. So I think I'm gonna say that we need to just keep the old method here. Or maybe it's just a way to do many-to-many apps at project. All right, doesn't matter. We're good with it. Let's make sure we create a Cloud Firestore database in all of our environments. So I'm just trying to keep these all kind of the same. So now we have an empty database in all of these. Very good, okay. Ooh, hosting. I did that. So just got a Firebase deploy to do any of this. Oh, that's cool. Probably don't really need to do this, but it just helps me to have them all even. Because if there's an issue with one, if I do something in one and the other one doesn't do that, then I just want them to be very consistent, because I need to sort of depend on these all being equivalent, so that when something goes wrong in one or something goes right on one, I can be reasonably confident it's going to go right on the other one. So I have some things set up for my Firebase hosting. It's set up by my development project as my main one. So I'm just going to say Firebase deploy and see if this won't put our project up in the main thing. All right, so it's up. Now, I don't think it's going to be putting the real thing up. I think it's going to put up, yeah, something happened, but it's not putting up our shuffleboard app, because we're not compiling all of our create React app stuff there. So I think I need to go into our Firefly and see how this all worked out here. What I've got here is a couple things. I've got a thing that says each of these commands, npm start, npm dev, npm stage, npm live, just a couple things. Start just gets our development server started. Dev pushes our code to Firebase, and stage pushes it to the Firebase stage, and live pushes it to the actual live app. And before it does each of those things, it makes sure to use the correct project, the correct environment, and it also pulls in these environment variables here. So I'm going to try to see if I can't get this working here, and some things may have changed, so we'll see if we'll just try to make sure it'll still work. What happens if I run React scripts build? Do I have a shortcut for that already? Yep, build. So npm run build. Great. So when I'm pushing to Firebase, what I really need to be doing is pushing the build folder. So let's run Firebase deploy again. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, it did work. Great. Just had to refresh. So now what we're doing when we push, there's a couple things that are happening. One, we can create all of our code into a single bundle, and that's going to live in build. And then we can push that bundle up into our development server here. But I want to do a couple different things and make this a little fancier. So I'm going to say, I'm going to add a couple other pieces here. I don't want to have eject, because I don't want to be tempted to eject this project. Eject means I don't get all the benefits of all the create React app bundled up already. So I'm going to start. Build, I'm going to say, I want this to be 3 different things. Dev, stage, live. And they're all going to build. And then they're all going to deploy that build. But the thing they are going to do differently is they're going to use different projects first. And this one's going to use stage. This one's going to use live. And I'm calling them dev, stage, and live. And how do I define what dev, stage, and live are? I believe I can just go to Firebase RC and do that here. And these are our official Firebase projects. So that's that. I'm just going to go through like Firefly and see like what else did I do to get this thing working. I mean, package lock. I have anything for rules? I don't know what might be in here. Firebase RC, let's see what I had put in there. And then there's obviously all these config that I might need for my app, but I don't think I need that yet. Package, I just did that. We'll worry about pulling in these variables soon enough. Rules, yep, public build. Don't think I need anything else there. These are the rules for the database. We don't need this yet. Yep. Okay. So let's see what happens if I do this. npm run dev. This should create a bundle. JSON error. Don't need that trailing comma. This should create a bundle of my app and deploy it to Shuffleboard dev. Okay, now if I go to dev again, it should say Shuffleboard. Great. Now I'm going to do something tricky. I'm going to change my app. Instead of saying Shuffleboard, I'm going to say Shuffleboard. And now I'm going to run npm run stage. So this is going to take a different version of the app and put it on my staging URL, the test URL that I have. Nice. So look, Shuffleboard stage firebaseapp.com is Shuffleboard. Shuffleboard dev, I can refresh this. It's still going to be the old version. So now I've got different versions of my app going to different live environments, basically. So this means I can work on some weird version, push it up to development, even put it up to stage and have friends try it out on a totally different database world, but nobody on live will be affected. Only thing we're ever going to want to push to live is like good working code, even if it's small, which this is technically kind of working. This is on stage. I'm going to make another one. I'm going to push it to live, and I'm going to make this just to make sure we tested everything. I'm going to push a normal version to live, and just make sure that our live server is working. All right, we've got a live server as well. Shuffleboard dev stage live. We're cooking with gas. Nice. And this is erroring out of me because it knows that this example is bad, so I think it is time to get rid of this. All right, I'm just sort of thinking about this in my head. Hosting cache. I don't think we need this stuff in our Git. So I'm going to add that. I think there's a whole set of things we need to not include from Firebase potentially. Build node modules. So now that I kind of got this working, I'm going to say, I'm just going to go through the changes I made and just make sure everything's looking good. That makes sense. That makes sense. That needed to happen. That needed to happen. This all needed to happen. Okay, so what should this commit be called? Something like set up Firebase hosting environments and hosting. Okay, so now we have an app live out on the internet at shuffleboardlive.firebaseapp.com, which is pretty cool. But that's not a great URL to share with the world. I think it should be better. How am I doing on time? We got time. So I'm going to go to my domain registrar, iwantmyname.com. Sign in. Very secure password. And I'm going to set up DNS. And so basically going to let me do is take the domain name that I already bought and hook it up to this website. All right, I've found my domain name and I've got no DNS records here. So I want to go to Shuffleboard hosting here and connect some domains. I'm going to do this 3 times as always. Enter the exact domain you want to visit. So for dev, I want to do dev.shuffleboard.com. I wish I had shuffleboard.com. Get shuffleboard.com. Okay. For stage, I want it to be stage.getshuffleboard.com. For live, I could say live.getshuffleboard.com, but really I want it to just be getshuffleboard.com. All right, connected domain. I have to verify that I actually own getshuffleboard.com. Convince Google that I actually have this URL. So I have to add this little bit of code as a starter. Text for getshuffleboard.com. So type text, getshuffleboard.com. I think I could probably leave that blank, but that's okay. Paste this in there, add, save DNS settings. So now it's out to the DNS service. Basically what this means is I've got a secret code from Google that says only the person who owns this website would be able to put this up on the website itself. And now I've put it up on this website, the secret DNS server thing. And now I'm going to wait for Google to see it and say, yep, that matches this crazy code we gave him. He must really be the owner of this website. Sometimes it can take a little while because DNS is a little bit slow. So we might just sit here for a while and click verify forever. This makes no sense to work on right now. Okay, so we're going to come back to that. What else should we do to get ourselves a basic starting working version of Shuffleboard? Well, while we're waiting for that, I think it might be useful to just say a little bit more than just Shuffleboard in our app. So let's do this. Shuffleboard. H1. This is JSX. It's just essentially HTML, but it lives inside JavaScript, which when I first tried it blew my mind and kind of made me nervous and thought this is insane. What have we done as a culture? And then I got over it and found that myself loving it real quick. Shuffleboard. What do I want to say about Shuffleboard? You know, there's like a lot of good things. Shuffleboard helps your team collaborate, helps you run live meetings. Now, I have better copy on my wireframe, and if I was on a different computer, I might pull it up, but I don't want to crash my screen recording. Cool. Or yarn start. I'm not really sure which I'm supposed to be using, to be honest with you. Let's give this another try. Did I do that right? Google site verification. NMVC. Yep. I did. I think. Shuffleboard. Shuffleboard helps you learn live collaborative meetings. Let's go to Firefly and see what kinds of stuff that I might be missing that I can tidy up now, so I don't have to start a whole new thing. Maybe we should organize source a little bit. So this is, again, my boilerplate, the way I've been doing this, but it hasn't been updated for a little while. So I'm just kind of looking at this and thinking, what do I need to get ready to go? I have my index. Firebase. Lots of good stuff to do here. So basically the way that this works is this index file is what create React app is looking for this thing to kick this thing off. And what this does is it basically says, hey, give me React. Give me also React DOM, which is just React. Give me some web page, some page in here called app. And then, hey React, put app in our web page. And the web page is going to be in this HTML thing called root. And if you go to index it here, you see we have root. So this is going to contain our entire app right here. And whatever's in app, well, what is an app? It's this. It's a div with h1, shuffleboard, p. Shuffleboard does this. And if I go to our version here, actually not that one, it's our current local one, I can see that that's exactly what we got in here. Look, we got that root div, and we got a div inside it, which is this div here. Then we got shuffleboard. Shuffleboard helps you run collaborative meetings. Cool. Let's test this one more time, and then if it's not ready, we're gonna do some other stuff. All right, it ain't ready. We'll get back to it. So here's an idea. Why don't I get a mailing list going of people who might be interested in this. That way, if you're watching this video, you can sign up for a mailing list and get updates on Shuffleboard. So I'm just going to go to MailChimp. I'm going to create a new audience. Actually, I guess I'm going to log in first, aren't I? Okay, so it's sending me a two-factor thing. Oh, it showed up on my phone. 514332. Nice. Didn't have to stop and start that again. Audience. I'm going to create a new audience. Max number of audiences I have to upgrade. Terrible news. I'll just delete one of these audiences. I don't need this one. Or that one, to be honest. Are you sure I'm at my audience limit? How much is upgrading? Free. Yes, I am. So I wonder, should I make a MailChimp form that gets people added to my Firebase, or added to a mailing list, and then also if people subscribe, send them to my, also send that email to the mailing list? Or should I just have a database of users, and if you sign up to get updates, I'm just going to put you on the users list, and I don't have to worry about like a MailChimp form. I can just send MailChimp email if I want, but really I'm just going to only send it to the list of people who are actually users. You know what I could do? Refresh this tab again and not have to think about it right now. Providence is not looking down on me. I don't know. I don't really want to pay $10 to MailChimp right now to get this going in perpetuity. You know what? Let's just hack it the simple way. Let's make a footer. And I know how the people can contact me if they want to. I'm going to say copyright. Did that just work? Shouldn't have worked. Yeah, I guess it worked. Copyright, whatever today's date is. How did I do that? JavaScript, show current year. I think that should work. Copyright director 1, A, href equals. This is my company. Let's see how this looks. Copyright did not show the year. Well, I don't need a script tag here. It's JSX. What's going on? What are you? Oh, I meant to write it to the document. It just is. There we go. Add a space. So what I'm doing here is if I add another space here, it's not going to do anything because it's HTML. HTML only does one space at a time, and for some reason that's just not going in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a piece of JavaScript. And what am I going to put in my JavaScript? A string. And what's that string going to be? Literally just a space. But the way it works out is that it'll add the space in there nicely. So look, okay. You can't sign up for the mailing list yet. We'll figure that out in a minute. Shuffleboard helps you live collaborative meetings. Copyright 2019, Directorworks LLC. So you can just click this. Maybe I'll give it a target equals blank. And you can find my email there. If you have any questions or comments or want to keep track of things, then, you know, you can email me there. This is only going to be up for not very long. Great, that works. That's my website. So, I'm going to add this. I'm just going to say add copyright. Copy it. Copyright. Copyright. Should probably stage a file before I do it. Okay, great. I'm going to say npm run live. So now I'm going to push this directly to my live server. Let's double check this one more time. GetShuffleboard.com. Is that the domain name that I have? It seems to be. I mean, it might just take a while. DNS stuff can take a while to propagate out, so I'm not super worried about it. I just wish I could do this live with y'all. We'll just wait. Oops. All right, so hard refresh on live. Shuffleboard. Shuffleboard helps you run live collaborative meetings. Copyright 2019 DirectWorks LLC. So Shuffleboard Live is a thing. Once we get these up, we're going to hook up, we're going to add more DNS records here so that our actual domain names are going to connect. You know, how are we doing on time? 52, we should get going. And that way, someday, hopefully in our next episode, we'll have getshuffleboard.com live and working. I was hoping to have it up right now. But I don't want to spend too much time hitting refresh, and I also don't want to go on to do too many other things until we have our sort of situation sorted. Yeah, looks like it's not going to work. Okay, but we do have our GitHub up of a live app. It's synced. It's ready to go in GitHub. We also have our 3 Firebase projects, soon to be hosted live. We have our basic Firestore or Firebase setup, our basic code committed, created thing, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. We just sort of dipped our toes into code today, totally separate track from the design stuff, but at least, you know, the ball is rolling on a live code base. That's a pretty big deal. That's like a big celebration moment. We've got a code base. This thing is a thing. And now all we got to do is sort of make incremental improvements bit by bit based off of the designs we have, so that it becomes a real life project. That'll probably mean adding some styles, adding some structure to our source file, adding a database, letting people log in. We're going to steal a lot of that code from the Firefly open source project I did. We are going to try to get the very, very basic of basics going so that somebody could use and find some value out of this. This thing is not at the point where anybody would find any value out of it. We're not even going to be surprised. This is just, you know, the roughest of rough. But it's a good start. One more click. Okay. I'm going to get going. I'm going to start the rest of my day, but stay tuned to see what comes up next for writing code for Shuffleboard.